one of the most popular movie series of all time. A cultural phenomenon that redefines storytelling, filmmaking, and what it means to be a fan. For decades, people have argued, debated, and celebrated it. Critics call it groundbreaking, fans call it legendary. Some even say it changed cinema forever. But what do I think about it? Well, the funny thing about that is, I've never seen a single Star Wars movie.
What did you say?
Yeah, ever. And I know how that sounds. I've grown up surrounded by Star Wars. Toys, memes, games, quotes, but just somehow I've never actually sat down and watched the movies. But that ends today. I'm finally watching the Star Wars Original Trilogy for the first time. No nostalgia, but just a fresh perspective. And honestly, I'm excited. I always wanted to know what I've been missing all this time when it came to this franchise. I wanted to finally understand what makes this series so special to millions of people around the world. So I looked up what movie to start with and dove headfirst into A New Hope. However, I came out the other end disappointed. Maybe my first mistake was going in expecting to be blown away. I mean, this is Star Wars, right? So naturally I pressed play thinking I was about to have my mind blown in the best way possible. But it never happened. I didn't hate it, but I didn't walk away impressed. It was more like watching something that clearly mattered to everyone else but didn't fully connect with me in the moment. And that feeling is weird. You start asking yourself, is it me? Or is everyone else seeing something I just don't? The characters didn't help pull me in either. Luke Skywalker. He comes off as this dreamer kid trapped in a boring life wanting adventure. But by the end, that's pretty much all I got from him. He loses his aunt and uncle, two people who raised him, and it barely registers emotionally. At least that's what it looked like. It just sort of happened and then we moved on. Then there's Han Solo, a cool personality. He's confident, charming, and I see why people love him. But here he felt like the classic selfish rogue turned sudden hero, and it was over fast. He pops in, does one good deed, and now he's a hero. That's cool, sure, but it's not the cinema-changing storytelling I went in expecting. And the most surprising part was Darth Vader. Look, this one even shocked me. The myth of Vader is so massive, and I was told he was one of the best villains. But watching him here didn't feel like the towering legend I heard about. Which leads me to the question I had the second the credits rolled. Where's Yoda? Son of a— Nah, I'm just playing. But I did finish this movie expecting to feel something huge. A spark, or a wow, or something that says this changed cinema forever. Instead, I was confused. So I did something that many might relate to. I googled which movie in the series is considered the best just to see if maybe I started on the wrong foot emotionally. And the internet said A New Hope was one of the better ones. And now I'm even more confused. Because now the question wasn't, why didn't I love this? It became, am I missing something deeper here? It's like being in class realizing everyone else got the lesson except you. So instead of stopping, I doubled down and put the next movie on. Because if this story means that much to the world, then something has to be there. Something I haven't seen yet. And I wanted to find that out. Going into this one, I honestly didn't know what to expect. After how the first one left me feeling, I was hoping this one would be the one to grab me. I didn't need perfection, I just needed something to finally make me feel that Star Wars magic everyone talks about. And this movie did exactly that. Right from the start, something felt different. The pacing was cleaner, the camera was more dynamic, and the action was way better. Scenes felt like they had momentum. Like the story finally had direction and weight behind every choice and moment. Luke's journey especially stood out this time. In A New Hope, he felt like a kid staring at the stars wishing for more. But here he's forced to grow up, fast. The movie doesn't hold his hand, no pun intended. But he's thrown into emotional pressure, danger, responsibility, and you can feel the burden beginning to shape him. His training scenes weren't loud or flashy, they had this quiet tension to them. A sense that something deeper was happening under the surface. He wasn't just learning about the Force, he was learning who he's supposed to become, and more importantly, what he's willing to sacrifice to get there. At the same time, Han and Leia's relationship started breathing life into the film. In the first movie, Han always felt like he was there only for himself. Not that he hated anyone, it was more like he tolerated the group because they were a means to the end. But seeing him go from that reluctant, I'm only here for my cut kind of guy, to someone willing to sacrifice his life for his friends, that growth was exactly what his character needed. And then there's Yoda. I honestly wasn't expecting him to show up this early, and definitely not in that playful, almost trickster-like way. But But once he revealed who he truly was, something clicked. Suddenly, the story felt bigger. It didn't feel like it was about the ships, lasers, and the war. It was about identity, balance, discipline, temptation, and patience. The Force was a philosophy, not just a superpower. And I'll be honest, at some point while Luke was training, I caught myself pretending I had a lightsaber in my hand. That's when I knew I was being drawn into the story. Not completely, but enough to pull me into the world instead of leave me outside looking in. The expansion of the lore, the mythology behind the Force, Luke's struggle between duty and emotion, those were moments that actually stuck with me. That's when I started thinking, oh, this might be why people love this franchise. This movie felt like a huge step up in almost every way. The characters had purpose, the world felt alive, dangerous, and meaningful, and the story felt like it was building to something. And so I found myself wondering, if the story jumped this far in one movie, how much bigger can it really get? Because now, even though I wasn't fully converted yet, I was invested in seeing where this journey leads. So with that curiosity and a bit of hope building, I moved into the finale. Going into Return of the Jedi, I had hope. After Empire, I honestly thought, okay, this is the one. This is where everything finally clicks for me. I expected the emotional peak, the moment where I finally get it. The part of Star Wars that makes lifelong fans tear up, cheer, and talk about the story like it changed their lives. Kinda like what Endgame did to Marvel. But instead, the movie really didn't land for me like I hoped. For a lot of the runtime, I felt like I was waiting for that emotional punch, waiting for that cinematic payoff that I felt building in Empire. But instead, a big chunk of the movie felt like filler to me. Han, who had so much personality in Empire, suddenly felt sidelined. And it surprised me because in the last movie, you brought so much life to the story. And then there's Yoda, who just kinda dies in the beginning of the movie, which sucked for me because some of my favorite scenes were from Yoda's training. So after that, there was this kind of emotional emptiness. Like the story had created all this space for something big to happen, and that something just kept being delayed. The pacing slowed, scenes passed, and I kept thinking, okay, now it's coming. But it never happened. I kept checking in with myself like, this is the finale, this is the big ending everyone grew up loving. And I don't say that as disrespect, just genuinely how I felt as someone experiencing all of this without nostalgia. But then the last 30 minutes happened. The Luke vs. Vader rematch, the tension, the temptation, the quiet moments where you're wondering if the dark side is creeping in. Even Vader's internal struggle finally cracking through the mask. That final choice, Luke throwing down the saber, Vader choosing his son over his master, all that worked. Those scenes hit in a way the rest of the movie didn't. Even without nostalgia, even without decades of emotional buildup, that moment felt earned. It's just that outside of that powerful finale, the film never consistently reached that emotional height for me. And look, I know lifelong fans probably think this sounds crazy. I'm not here saying the movie's bad. It just didn't hit me the way that I expected the grand finale of Star Wars to hit. So by the end of this trilogy, I didn't walk away with the hype everyone talks about. Instead of walking away in love, I walked away curious. Because here's where my mind kept going. If this trilogy wasn't able to fully hook me in emotionally, then maybe the heart of Star Wars wasn't in the discovery. Maybe it's in the downfall. Maybe the magic everyone talks about isn't just the story of Luke rising. Maybe it's the story of Anakin falling. So I plan to go back and watch the prequels and see if maybe those will help me understand why Star Wars is so beloved as it is. But until then, let me know how you felt when you first watched Star Wars. And be sure to check out this other video of mine that you'll like.